Good afternoon, class. This is Mrs. Pender Harrison, and tonight you're going to be taking the part 2 of the rhetorical strategies. If you have been assigned just part 2 of the notes, don't panic. If you have been assigned this video, this is the video that you need to be watching. But it could be that maybe the text that you're reading next class only needs the notes for part 2 because there's a long list of rhetorical strategies. So if you've been assigned this video, this is the video that you need to be watching. Go ahead and pause the video to set up your Cornell notes. Your essential question that goes at the top is, how do authors use rhetorical strategies to create ethos, pathos, and/or logos in a text? The first rhetorical strategy that we're going to talk about this evening is allusion. Allusion with an A and not illusion with an I. An allusion with an I is a magic trick, okay? So it's an illusion to make someone disappear from a closet and reappear in the audience. An allusion in literature is a reference without any sort of explicit identification to a literary or historical person, place, event, or to another literary work or passage. We make references to Shakespeare and the Bible and classic Greek drama plays all of the time in literature, at least those are the most common ones. And so when you're making a reference to another text, what you're doing is using an allusion. Biblical allusions are very popular, and very common in English literature. So something like, I wouldn't be surprised if this rainstorm lasted for 40 days and 40 nights is a reference to the book of Genesis and the story of Noah and the flood. Pop culture allusions like, my dog ate my homework, said my student who hadn't turned in his 12th homework assignment. I was surprised that his nose didn't start growing. This is an allusion to Pinocchio, the wooden puppet who became a real boy and couldn't lie without his nose growing. Or film allusions are really popular as well. On my first day of high school, I thought, Toto, we're not in Kansas anymore, which is a reference to the Wizard of Oz. The use of an allusion allows the writer to communicate some sort of complex idea and emotion in relatable ways. The readers can comprehend the complex ideas and emotions because of the comparisons being made. So if I say on my first day of school, Toto, we're not in Kansas anymore, I don't have to then spend a paragraph talking about how my character feels out of place. They maybe are feeling like they don't fit in, or this is a new environment to them. Just from that one allusion, I make that connection. So you might want to think about, which rhetorical device does an allusion most likely help to create? Ethos, pathos, or logos? Our second term we're going to talk about this evening is an analogy. An analogy is a comparison that shows a similarity between two unlike things, but it is not like a metaphor, which is a figure of speech. An analogy would be something like, what strings are to a guitar, love is to life. Whereas a metaphor might be something like, her voice was music to his ears. Our third term we're going to talk about this evening is an anecdote. Politicians use anecdotes in their speeches all of the time. An anecdote is a really short account or story of a very specific incident or event. Usually it's something that's either very funny or very relatable. They often come at the beginning of an article or a speech. But the anecdote is a personal story meant to get the audience sort of on your side. It appeals to pathos in rhetoric because it allows for your audience to sort of be in your shoes, even just for the first minute of your speech. When you're telling a story about how you were picked on in middle school or something like that. The last term we're going to talk about this evening is concession. Concession in this case is not like movie be popcorn, soda, and hot dogs like you might get when you go out to the theater. It's spelled the same, but it's a very different term. Concession in literature is a rhetorical strategy that is most often used in argumentative writing, where one acknowledges a point made by one's opponent. Sometimes it's called a counterclaim. It allows for different opinions and approaches toward an issue. And it also indicates that you understand what causes the debate or controversy. Authors will use concession in their writing in order to appeal to logos and ethos. They appeal to logos by providing a rebuttal to the concession or counterclaim, and they appeal to ethos by acknowledging that someone somewhere would disagree with them. It makes them appear more credible when you give acknowledgement to people who would think differently than you do. It makes you seem like you're much more widely read. It makes you seem like you're much more knowledgeable about the issue when you include a concession in your writing. That's all we have for this evening. Just remember, we are going to RQ&S your notes in class, so you just have to take the notes. You do not have to RQ&S them this evening. Have a good night. Bye.